What if that ordinary 1979 D Lincoln penny sitting in your change jar is worth far more than 1 cent? Before you spend another penny, stop and check the tiny D mint mark. Because while most 1979 D Lincoln cents are common, a truly exceptional example can bring thousands of dollars, and the right error or extraordinary condition could make it a serious collector's prize. Today, we're taking a close look at the 1979 D Lincoln penny, the coin that has sparked plenty of rumors about hidden fortunes. And there's one important detail you need to understand before believing any claim that a normal 1979 D penny is worth $1 million. So grab your change jar, your old coin collection, or that handful of pennies you were about to spend, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for. The first surprise is just how many of these pennies were made. The 1979 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, and more than 4.1 billion examples were produced. That sounds like the opposite of rare, right? And normally, you would be correct. A coin made in the billions is not automatically valuable just because it is old. But here's where the story gets interesting. Among billions of ordinary coins, collectors pay much more attention to pieces that survived in exceptional condition, unusual varieties, or genuine mint errors. And that means your 1979 D penny needs to pass several tests before you can even start talking about serious money. First, look at the date. You want to see 1979. Then look just below the date, near the front of the coin. That tiny letter D tells you the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. The coin itself is a Lincoln Memorial cent, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And there is another detail that makes this particular era interesting. The 1979 D cent was made from a copper-based composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, and it weighs about 3.11 grams. But don't stop there. Because the biggest mistake people make is seeing a 1979 D penny and immediately assuming it must be rare. It isn't. Most circulated examples are common and are generally worth close to face value. So why are collectors interested in high-grade examples? Condition. Condition can completely change the story of a coin. Imagine two 1979 D pennies sitting side by side. Both were made at the Denver Mint. Both have the same date. Both have the same basic design, but one has scratches, discoloration, contact marks, and wear from years of circulation. The other looks almost like it just came from the mint. The second coin can be dramatically more desirable, and that's where the mystery begins. A coin doesn't have to be ancient to become collectible. Sometimes the biggest difference is simply how well it survived. Think about what happens to a penny after it leaves the mint. It gets dropped. It gets carried in pockets. It gets thrown into cash registers. It gets mixed together with thousands of other coins. It gets scratched against other cents. It may spend decades inside jars, drawers, vending machines, or bank bags. So finding a 1979 D Lincoln cent with exceptional original surfaces can be much harder than finding an ordinary circulated example. Now look carefully at Lincoln's portrait. You want sharp details. Look at Lincoln's hair. Look around the cheek and jaw. Examine the lettering. Check the fields, the flat areas around the design. Are they clean and smooth, or are they covered with tiny scratches and marks? Now flip the coin over. Look at the Lincoln Memorial. Check the columns. Look at the lettering. Examine the open fields around the memorial. A high-grade coin should have strong details and very few distracting marks. But there's an even bigger clue. Color. Collectors commonly describe copper cents as brown, red-brown, or red. A coin that retains strong original red color can be much more desirable than one that has turned completely brown, especially when combined with a very high grade. And this is where many people misunderstand the 1979 D penny. They hear a story about a rare penny selling for thousands of dollars and assume every 1979 D is secretly worth a fortune. That's not how coin values work. The date and mint mark identify the coin. The condition, variety, error, certification, and market demand help determine what collectors are willing to pay. And according to PCGS auction records, the regular 1979 D Lincoln cent has reached an auction record of $3,995 for an extraordinary MS67 Plus red example. Read that number again. $3,995. Not $1 million. But still thousands of dollars for a 1-cent coin. And that is exactly why you should never judge a coin only by its face value. Now here's the question. Could a normal 1979 D penny in your pocket be worth $3,995? Almost certainly not. The coin would need to be an exceptionally high-grade example, and condition at that level is extremely difficult to achieve. For comparison, a PCGS recorded MS-65 red example sold for only $7 in an earlier auction record, while an MS-66 red example has a recorded sale of $55. Then the numbers climb sharply at the highest grades. One recorded MS-67 red example sold for $775, and PCGS records also show earlier auction appearances at higher prices. That's a huge lesson for coin hunters. The difference between an ordinary coin and an elite condition coin can be enormous. And now we're getting to the part that could make your search even more interesting. Errors. A genuine mint error can completely change a coin's story. We're talking about things like dramatic off-center strikes, major die errors, wrong planchets, double designs, or other unusual minting mistakes. But be careful. Not every strange-looking penny is an error. This is one of the biggest traps in coin collecting. A damaged coin can look bizarre. A coin that has been squeezed, scratched, heated, drilled, plated, or altered after leaving the mint may look unusual, but that doesn't make it a valuable mint error. The key question is, did the mint create the unusual feature, or did something happen to the coin afterward? That distinction can mean the difference between a collectible coin and a damaged penny. So if your 1979 D looks strange, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't scrape it. And definitely don't try to make the coin look newer. Cleaning can destroy original surfaces and potentially reduce collector interest. Instead, protect the coin and have the unusual feature examined by someone who understands mint errors. Now let's talk about the $1 million claim. You may have seen headlines or videos claiming that a 1979 D Lincoln penny is worth $1 million. Here's the truth. There is no established auction record showing a normal 1979 D Lincoln cent selling for $1 million. The documented record for the regular 1979 D cent is thousands, not millions. That doesn't mean you should ignore your coin. It means you should know what actually creates value. A $1 million valuation would require something extraordinary, something far beyond simply being a 1979 D penny. And this is where smart collectors separate fact from hype. Don't let an exciting headline convince you that every old penny is a jackpot. Instead, learn the features that professional collectors actually examine. Now imagine you're searching through a jar of pennies. You pull out a 1979 D. At first glance, it looks ordinary. You turn it over. Nothing obvious. You put it aside. But then you notice something. The surfaces are unusually clean. The red color is still strong. The strike looks sharp. There are almost no contact marks. Suddenly, that coin deserves a closer look. Maybe it isn't worth thousands. Maybe it isn't a top-grade example. But you've discovered the most important part of coin hunting. You found a reason to investigate instead of spending it. And that habit can lead to discoveries. Here's another mistake to avoid. Don't confuse asking prices with actual selling prices. Anyone can list a penny online for $100,000, $500,000, or even $1 million. That doesn't mean someone will pay that amount. Serious collectors look at completed sales, auction records, grading, authenticity, and comparable coins. That's why documented auction results are so important. A real sale tells you what someone actually paid. An online listing only tells you what someone hopes to receive. So if you find a 1979 D penny that looks unusually impressive, take clear photos, compare it with authenticated examples, and consider professional grading if the coin appears to have significant potential. And remember something else. The highest value coins are often difficult to recognize without experience. A tiny difference in surface quality can separate one grade from another. A coin that looks perfect to the naked eye may reveal contact marks under magnification. A supposed doubled feature may actually be machine doubling. A strange edge may be damage rather than a mint error. That's why patience matters. Now, before you throw that 1979 D penny back into your change jar, perform one final inspection. Check the date. Check the D mint mark. Check the overall condition. Look closely at the color. Inspect Lincoln's portrait. Examine the lettering. Flip it over and study the memorial. Look for anything that appears genuinely unusual and consistent with a mint-made error. And whatever you do, don't clean it. If you discover something truly unusual, that's when professional authentication becomes important. Because a genuine 1979 D Lincoln cent with an exceptional grade or significant mint error could be dramatically more interesting than an ordinary example. So, is your 1979 D Lincoln penny worth $1 million? For a normal example, no. But could an exceptional 1979 D be worth far more than 1 cent? Absolutely. And documented auction records prove that extraordinary examples can reach into the thousands. That's the real secret. The value isn't hiding in the date alone. It's hiding in the combination of condition, originality, rarity, and unusual characteristics. So tonight, go check your pennies. Check the old jars. Check the drawers. Check the coins you've been ignoring for years. Because the next interesting coin you find might not look special at first. And that's what makes coin hunting so addictive. You never know what you're going to discover until you actually look. So tell me in the comments, do you have a 1979 D Lincoln penny? And does yours have any unusual markings, errors, or incredible condition? And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden value in everyday American coins, subscribe for more rare coin discoveries. Because the next penny you check could be the one that makes you stop and look twice. What if the ordinary 1986 Lincoln penny sitting in your drawer right now could be worth far more than 1 cent? Before you spend it, stop and look closely, because one tiny detail could completely change what you're holding. Today, we're looking at the 1986 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to check, what mistakes to avoid, and why some collectors pay serious money for unusual pennies. And here's the important part. A missing mint mark does not automatically make a 1986 penny rare. In fact, most 1986 pennies without a mint mark are completely normal. But that's where the mystery begins. Imagine you're going through an old jar of change. You pick up a penny, see the date 1986, notice there is no letter under the date, and think, wait a second, did the mint forget something? You put it aside because you've heard stories about pennies worth thousands or even millions. But before you start celebrating, there's something you need to understand. The absence of a mint mark on a 1986 Lincoln cent is normally expected for a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia cents from this era generally carried no mint letter, while coins struck at Denver had a small D. So if your 1986 penny has no mint mark, that alone isn't $1 million mistake. But don't click away yet, because collectors don't look at just one detail. They look at the entire coin. And sometimes, a coin that appears ordinary at first can become interesting because of its condition, strike, errors, varieties, or unusual characteristics. So let's turn this into a treasure hunt. Start with the date. You want to see 1986 clearly on the front of the coin. Next, look directly underneath the date. Is there a tiny D? If there is, you've got a Denver minted penny. If there isn't, you're most likely looking at a Philadelphia issue. Now here's where beginners often make a mistake. They see no mint mark and immediately assume the coin is an error. It isn't. The Philadelphia Mint traditionally produced Lincoln cents without a mint mark, so a normal 1986 Philadelphia penny can have no mint letter at all. That means the phrase 1986 penny no mint mark sounds exciting, but it needs context. And this is exactly why you should never trust a headline that says every no mint mark penny is worth a fortune. The real value comes from what makes a particular coin different. Let's look at the coin itself. On the obverse, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head is the word liberty. The familiar phrase "In God we trust" appears along the top, while the date 1986 sits in front of Lincoln. Flip the coin over and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial design that was used on cents for decades. Around it are United States of America and E pluribus unum, with 1 cent at the bottom. At first glance, millions of these coins look almost identical. And that's the problem. If you're searching through pocket change, you need to know what separates an ordinary coin from a truly collectible one. Condition is one of the biggest factors. A 1986 penny that spent decades being tossed around in pockets, cash registers, drawers, and jars will usually show scratches, discoloration, worn details, and contact marks. That's normal. But imagine finding one that was barely circulated. The surfaces are bright. Lincoln's portrait is sharp. The lettering is crisp. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse has strong detail. There are very few marks, and the original luster is still visible. Now you've got something collectors may pay much more attention to. And here's another important warning. Do not clean it. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they discover an old coin. They grab a cloth, polish, vinegar, chemicals, or another household cleaner and try to make the penny shine. That can actually hurt the coin. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural brightness, or chemical damage that permanently reduces collector appeal. So if you think you've found something unusual, leave it alone. Now let's talk about errors. This is where things get much more interesting. A genuine mint error can sometimes make a common coin dramatically more desirable. Errors can happen when something goes wrong during the manufacturing process. A coin might be struck off-center, struck with a damaged die, struck more than once, or show another unusual production mistake. But there's a huge difference between a real mint error and damage that happened after the coin left the mint. For example, if the edge looks flattened because someone squeezed the penny with a machine, that's not necessarily a mint error. If the letters look strange because the coin was scratched, that's damage. This is why authentication matters. One genuine error can be exciting. One fake error can be nothing more than an ordinary penny that has been damaged. Now take a close look at the rim. Is the design centered properly? Is there an unusual amount of blank space on one side? Does the rim look normal? Does the Lincoln Memorial appear properly aligned? An off-center strike can be one of the most obvious things to spot with the naked eye. But don't confuse a slightly uneven appearance with a major error. Coins aren't always perfectly centered, and small imperfections don't automatically create huge values. Now let's talk about the $1 million claim. You've probably seen videos or posts claiming that an ordinary 1986 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is worth $1 million. That sounds incredible. But here's the truth you need to hear. A normal 1986 Philadelphia penny without a mint mark is not automatically worth $1 million. In most cases, it's worth around its face value, with collectible value depending on condition and specific characteristics. So why do people talk about $1 million pennies? Because the rare coin market has produced spectacular prices for certain extraordinary coins. Some famous US cents have sold for enormous amounts because of extreme rarity, historical importance, unique errors, or exceptional condition. But those are not the same thing as saying every ordinary penny from a particular year is worth a fortune. And that distinction could save you from making a very expensive mistake. Still, don't put that 1986 penny back in the spending pile just yet. There are more things to check. Look at the surface under good lighting. You don't need expensive equipment. A bright lamp and a simple magnifying glass can help you notice details. Check Lincoln's portrait. Look at the date. Inspect the lettering. Then flip the coin over. Study the Lincoln Memorial. Look for unusual doubling, strange shapes, missing details, or anything that appears to be part of the original strike rather than damage. And here's a secret many beginners overlook. Real doubling can look very different from simple damage or machine doubling. Machine doubling can create a flat, shelf-like appearance along parts of the design. True double dies can show more distinct separation or secondary images in specific areas. That means if you think your 1986 penny has doubling, don't immediately assume you've discovered a fortune. Take clear photos. Compare the coin with reliable references. And if the feature looks genuinely unusual, consider getting an expert opinion, because that's when the story can change. Imagine two people finding the exact same 1986 penny. One person sees an old 1-cent coin and spends it. The other notices an unusual feature, researches it, gets it examined, and discovers that the coin has a legitimate collectible characteristic. Same year. Same denomination. Completely different outcome. That's the lesson of coin collecting. The value isn't always hiding in the date alone. Sometimes it's hiding in the details. Now let's get to the question everyone is waiting for. How much could a 1986 Lincoln penny with no mint mark actually be worth? If it's a normal circulated Philadelphia penny, don't expect $1 million. It's generally a common coin and may be worth little more than face value. If it's in exceptionally high condition, Its value can rise depending on the grade and the strength of the coin. If it has a verified and significant mint error or an unusual collectible variety, the situation can change dramatically. But there is no automatic million-dollar value simply because the penny says 1986 and has no mint mark. And that's actually good news. Why? Because now you know what to look for instead of chasing a myth. The next time you see a 1986 penny, don't just glance at the date and throw it back into your pocket. Pick it up. Turn it over. Check the mint mark area. Study the surfaces. Look at the rim. Look for genuine errors. And most importantly, don't clean it. You could be holding a completely ordinary penny. Or you could be holding something unusual that deserves a closer look. That's what makes searching through old coins so addictive. You never know what the next handful of change might reveal. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever found a 1986 Lincoln penny with no mint mark? And did you notice anything unusual about it? Tell me in the comments what condition your penny is in and whether you've spotted any errors or unusual details. And before you spend your next old penny, take 5 seconds to inspect it. Because the difference between 1 cent and a valuable collectible isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's hiding in the smallest detail. Subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, hidden varieties, valuable errors, and old US coins you should always check before spending. And remember, don't assume every old penny is a fortune. Know what you're looking at. Because the next coin you find could be the one that makes you stop and look twice. What if a tiny 1988 Lincoln penny sitting in your change jar looked completely ordinary? But one tiny detail could make you stop spending it immediately. Before you toss that 1988 penny into a vending machine, take a close look at the area underneath the date. There's a reason collectors pay special attention to mint marks, errors, condition, and unusual varieties. And today, we're going to uncover what a 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is really worth, and the surprising details that could separate an ordinary 1-cent coin from a valuable collector piece. At first glance, the 1988 Lincoln penny seems almost too common to matter. It has Abraham Lincoln on the front, the familiar memorial design on the back, and a date that many people probably remember seeing in everyday pocket change. But here's where things get interesting. If your 1988 penny has no mint mark, don't automatically assume that means it is rare. In fact, a normal 1988 Lincoln cent without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During this period, Philadelphia cents were produced without a mint letter, so the absence of a mint mark by itself is not a million-dollar error. And that distinction is extremely important, because there are countless videos and online listings claiming that ordinary coins with no mint mark are worth incredible amounts of money. But collectors know there's much more to the story. So if you have a 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, keep watching, because we're going to go step by step through exactly what you should look for before deciding whether your coin is ordinary or something much more interesting. Let's start with the first thing you need to know. Look directly below the date. On a 1988 Lincoln cent from Philadelphia, you won't see a P, D, or S mint mark. That empty space is normal. Now imagine finding one in an old jar. You pick it up. You see 1988. You see no mint mark. And for a second you think, wait, did I just find something rare? That feeling is exactly why coin collecting can be so exciting. But don't stop there. The real mystery begins when you inspect the coin under good lighting. Turn it slowly. Look at Lincoln's portrait. Check the date. Examine the letters. Then flip the coin over. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, with United States of America above it and 1 cent below. Now look closely at the lettering and the details around the memorial. Why? Because errors and unusual varieties can sometimes create value that isn't obvious from the date alone. A regular 1988 Philadelphia penny is generally a common coin. Most circulated examples are worth around face value, and even uncirculated examples usually don't come close to the sensational prices you may see claimed online. But condition can change everything. And this is where many beginners make their first mistake. They find an old-looking penny and assume that age automatically creates value. It doesn't. A coin isn't necessarily valuable just because it's old. Collectors care about rarity, condition, demand, minting errors, varieties, and sometimes historical importance. Think about it this way. A coin can be more than 100 years old and still be relatively common. Another coin can be much newer and have a rare minting mistake that makes collectors extremely interested. That's why your 1988 penny deserves a closer inspection. Not because every 1988 penny is worth a fortune, but because unusual examples can be worth more than face value. Now here's another important detail. Don't clean it. This sounds simple, but people make this mistake all the time. They find a penny that looks dark, dirty, or stained, and they grab a household cleaner, polish, or even an abrasive material. They think they're improving the coin. But cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. If you think your 1988 penny might be valuable, leave it exactly as you found it. No polishing. No scraping. No chemicals. Just inspect it carefully. And here's where our story gets even more interesting. The 1988 Lincoln cent was produced during an important period in the history of the Lincoln cent. By 1988, the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse had been used for decades. The Lincoln cent itself had already been part of American commerce since 1909. So when you hold a 1988 penny, you're holding a small piece of a much longer American coin story. But does that history automatically make it worth millions? No. And that's something every serious collector should understand. There is no legitimate basis for claiming that a normal 1988 Philadelphia Lincoln cent with no mint mark is automatically worth $1 million. If someone tells you that simply having 1988 with no mint mark makes your penny $1 million coin, be extremely cautious. The no mint mark feature is normal for Philadelphia cents. However, there is a major difference between a normal coin and a coin with a genuine minting error. And that's what you should be searching for. Look for obvious abnormalities. Is the date dramatically doubled? Are letters showing unusual doubling? Does the coin appear to have been struck off-center? Is part of the design missing? Does the coin show an unusual die break? Does the metal look wrong compared with a normal 1988 cent? These are the kinds of questions collectors ask. And here's a powerful tip. Don't compare your coin to a random photograph on social media. Compare it with a confirmed normal example from the same year. Place the coins side by side if possible. Look at the lettering. Look at Lincoln's ear. Look at the date. Look at the memorial. Look at the rim. Sometimes what appears to be a dramatic error is actually damage that happened after the coin left the mint. A scratch is not automatically an error. A dent is not automatically an error. A flattened letter is not automatically a rare variety. And discoloration doesn't automatically mean the coin is valuable. This is one of the biggest secrets in coin collecting. You have to determine whether the unusual feature was created at the mint or happened later. That's the difference between an interesting damaged penny and a potentially collectible mint error. Now let's talk about the value. If you found a normal 1988 Lincoln cent with no mint mark in circulated condition, don't expect $1 million payday. In most cases, its value is simply 1 cent. And that's okay. Because the real opportunity is learning what separates an ordinary coin from a genuinely scarce one. If your 1988 penny is in exceptional uncirculated condition, it may attract more interest than a heavily worn example. Professional grading can also matter for coins at the high end of the market. A coin that has sharp details, strong original surfaces, and very little wear can be significantly more desirable than a damaged or heavily circulated example. But there's another trap you need to avoid. Don't confuse an asking price with an actual selling price. You might see someone list a common penny online for $500,000 or even $1 million. That does not mean the coin is actually worth that amount. Anyone can type a huge number into an online listing. Serious collectors look at documented sales, professional opinions, recognized varieties, condition, and market demand. So if you see a 1988 no mint mark penny listed for an unbelievable amount, don't assume you've discovered the next $1 million coin. Do your research first. Now, here's the part one really want you to remember. If you have a 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't throw it away just because it's probably common. And don't believe it's worth a fortune just because someone online says it is. Inspect it. Compare it. Protect it. And if something looks genuinely unusual, get a second opinion from a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. That could save you from making a very expensive mistake. Imagine two people finding the exact same 1988 penny. Person number one sees a common coin and spends it. Person number two notices something unusual, puts the coin aside, researches it, and discovers that it has a legitimate variety or mint error. The difference wasn't luck. It was attention. And that is why checking your change can be so much fun. You don't need to assume every penny is a hidden fortune. You simply need to know what you're looking at. So before you spend your next 1988 Lincoln cent, turn it over in your hand. Check the date. Check the mint mark area. Inspect the entire design. Look for genuine mint-made abnormalities. And most importantly, remember this. A missing mint mark on a 1988 Lincoln penny is normal for Philadelphia and, by itself, does not make the coin rare or worth $1 million. But if your coin has a legitimate and unusual error, a rare variety or exceptional condition, that's when the investigation gets interesting. And here's my question for you. Do you have a 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark sitting in a jar, drawer, wallet, or old collection right now? Take it out. Give it a closer look. You might not have $1 million coin, and most likely you don't. But you could have an unusual example that deserves a second look. And remember, the biggest mistake you can make is spending a coin before checking it. Because sometimes the smallest details are the ones that matter most. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories, unusual errors, and valuable possibilities hiding inside America's everyday coins, make sure you subscribe. There are millions of pennies still sitting in collections, jars, and pocket change, and some of them have details that most people never notice. So check your coins carefully, keep your eyes open, and never assume a penny is worthless until you know exactly what you're holding. What if that ordinary 1990 Lincoln penny sitting in your drawer right now is worth far more than 1 cent? Before you spend it, stop and look at one tiny detail that collectors check first. The mint mark. A 1990 Lincoln penny with no mint mark can look mysterious, unusual, and even incredibly valuable. But there's a catch that could completely change the story. The 1990 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that can create confusion almost instantly. You may see the words 1990, Liberty, and In God We Trust, and then notice something missing underneath the date. There's no letter, no D, no S, nothing. And that's where the mystery begins. Could the missing mint mark mean you have $1 million mistake? Or is there something else you need to check before getting excited? Today, we're going to break down exactly what a 1990 Lincoln penny with no mint mark means, why people sometimes believe these coins are extremely rare, what mistakes can make a normal penny valuable, and most importantly, what you should look for before deciding whether your coin is ordinary or special. And stay with me because near the end, we'll get to the detail that can separate a common 1990 penny from a genuinely collectible example. Let's start with the most important fact. If your 1990 Lincoln penny has no mint mark, that does not automatically mean it is an error. In fact, for 1990 Lincoln cents made at the Philadelphia Mint, having no mint mark is completely normal. That's right. The missing letter you might think is a mistake can actually be exactly what the U.S. Mint intended. So if you find a 1990 penny without a mint mark, don't immediately assume you've discovered $1 million coin. But don't throw it back into your change jar just yet. Because condition, errors, varieties, and authentication can make a huge difference. Imagine finding an old jar of coins in your basement. You start sorting through the pennies, and suddenly you notice one from 1990 with no mint mark. You search online and see dramatic claims about rare Lincoln pennies selling for thousands, or even millions of dollars. Your heart starts racing. You think, could this be the one? This is exactly where collectors slow down. The first thing they ask is not, how much is it worth? They ask, what exactly am I looking at? The 1990 Lincoln cent was made as part of the familiar Lincoln Memorial Cent series. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial. And because Philadelphia produced cents traditionally carried no mint mark, a normal 1990 Philadelphia penny can have no letter beneath the date. That means the absence of a mint mark alone is not enough to make your coin rare. But here's where things get interesting. What if your coin isn't simply a normal Philadelphia cent? What if there is an actual minting error? That is when collectors start paying much closer attention. A genuine mint error happens during the manufacturing process. It isn't something that develops because a coin gets old, dirty, scratched, or damaged in somebody's pocket. For example, Collectors may look for unusual doubling, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, broad strikes, or other legitimate mint-made abnormalities. And here's a huge warning. Damage is not the same thing as an error. A coin that has been squeezed, scratched, drilled, scraped, chemically altered, or damaged by machinery after leaving the mint can look strange, but that doesn't necessarily make it valuable. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. They see something unusual and assume unusual means rare. It doesn't. A valuable error needs to be examined carefully. Now let's talk about the date. The 1990 date should be sharp and properly formed. Look closely at the digits, especially if you're checking for possible doubling. Don't rely on a blurry photograph or a quick glance. Use good lighting. A magnifying glass can help. And if something looks genuinely unusual, take clear photos from multiple angles. But there's another detail you should never ignore: the overall condition of the coin. Imagine two identical 1990 pennies. One has been sitting loose in a pocket for decades, scratched, stained, worn, and dull. The other was protected shortly after being struck and still has strong original luster, sharp details, and very little contact damage. They may have the same date. They may have the same mint origin. They may even have the same basic design. But collectors can value them very differently. This is why coin grading matters. The difference between a heavily circulated coin and an exceptionally preserved coin can be dramatic, especially when you're dealing with a scarce variety or genuine error. And now comes the part that gets people excited. Could a 1990 Lincoln penny really be worth $1 million? For a normal 1990 Philadelphia cent with no mint mark, the answer is no. There is no legitimate basis for claiming that an ordinary 1990 no mint mark penny is automatically worth $1 million. That claim is often created by confusing a normal mint characteristic with a rare error, exaggerating online listings, or misunderstanding auction prices. And here's something every coin hunter should remember. A coin can be listed online for $1 million without actually being worth $1 million. An asking price is not the same as a confirmed sale. That's a critical difference. Real collectors look for documented transactions, recognized varieties, certified grades, and verifiable auction results. So if someone tells you that every 1990 penny without a mint mark is $1 million coin, be extremely careful. But here's the good news. That doesn't mean you should ignore your 1990 pennies. It means you should inspect them correctly. Start with the date. Confirm that it really says 1990. Then look below the date. If there's no mint mark, remember that this can be completely normal for a Philadelphia cent. Next, inspect Lincoln's portrait. Look around the lettering. Look at the edges. Look at the rim. Then flip the coin over. Check the Lincoln memorial design. Are any letters doubled? Is the strike unusually weak or distorted? Is the coin dramatically off-center? Does the planchet appear unusual? Is there a strange area that looks like it happened during striking rather than after the coin entered circulation? These are the questions that matter. And here's a pattern interrupt you definitely don't want to miss. Don't clean the coin. Seriously. If you think you found something rare, don't polish it, scrub it, dip it in chemicals, or try to make it shine. Cleaning can destroy original surfaces and potentially reduce collector value. Collectors generally want coins in their original condition. So if you find a suspicious 1990 penny, protect it and get professional opinions before doing anything permanent. Now let's return to the million-dollar question. What would actually have to happen for a 1990 penny to become extraordinarily valuable? It would need to be something far beyond simply having no mint mark. It would likely require an exceptionally rare and well-documented error or variety, outstanding condition, strong collector demand, and credible evidence supporting its rarity and value. And even then, you should never assume a specific price without professional evaluation and verified market evidence. This is where the real treasure hunt begins. Because the excitement isn't necessarily about finding $1 million penny. It's about finding something that other people overlooked. Maybe your coin has a legitimate mint error. Maybe it has an unusual variety. Maybe it's in exceptional condition. Or maybe it's simply a normal 1990 Philadelphia penny. And that's okay. Every coin doesn't have to be valuable to be interesting. But if you're already searching through old change, you might as well know what you're looking at. Now imagine this. You walk into a store and receive a handful of pennies as change. Normally, you'd throw them into your pocket without thinking. But this time, you notice one says 1990. You flip it over. You examine the date. You check for the mint mark. Then you notice something that doesn't look right. That tiny moment could be the beginning of a much more interesting discovery. The key is knowing the difference between a normal coin and a genuine rarity. So grab your 1990 Lincoln pennies and start checking. Look for the no mint mark Philadelphia issue, but remember, the missing mint mark itself is normal. Then inspect the coin for genuine mint-made errors, unusual varieties, and exceptional condition. If you believe you've found something unusual, compare it with reliable coin references and consider having it examined by a reputable numismatist or professional grading service. And don't let a huge online price tag fool you. $1 million claim needs $1 million evidence. That's the lesson every serious coin hunter should remember. So, do you have a 1990 Lincoln penny with no mint mark? Take a close look before spending it. It may not be the $1 million jackpot that viral posts sometimes claim, but it could still be an interesting collectible. And if you discover a legitimate error or rare variety, that's when the story gets much more exciting. And here's the challenge. Check your change jar. Check your old coin rolls. Check that forgotten collection sitting in a drawer. Because valuable coins aren't always hiding in museums. Sometimes the most interesting discoveries start with a coin that looks completely ordinary. If you enjoy uncovering hidden details, rare errors, and surprising stories behind American coins, subscribe and stay tuned for more. And remember, before you spend that old penny, look twice. You never know what tiny detail everyone else missed. What if a tiny 2005 Lincoln penny sitting in your change jar right now could be worth far more than 1 cent? Before you spend it, look closely at that little coin, because one tiny detail can completely change the story. But there's a catch most people miss. Today, we're taking a close look at the 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and we're going to separate the real facts from the wild $1 million claims you may have seen online. You'll learn exactly what the missing mint mark means, which errors can make a 2005 penny valuable, what condition matters most, and what you should check before putting one back into circulation. And stay with me because near the end, I'll explain the biggest mistake people make when they see a 2005 penny with no mint mark. Let's start with something that sounds strange. You find a 2005 Lincoln cent. You flip it over, check the date, and then look just below the date on the front. There's no letter, no D, no S, nothing. At first, that might look like a rare mistake. But is it? Here's where the mystery begins. The 2005 Lincoln cent was produced in large numbers, and Philadelphia minted Lincoln cents traditionally carry no mint mark. So if your 2005 penny has no mint mark, that does not automatically mean the coin is an error. In fact, a normal 2005 Philadelphia penny can have no mint mark by design. That single fact is extremely important. Because if you search online for 2005 penny no mint mark worth $1 million, you may find dramatic claims suggesting that every missing mint mark example is a fortune. That's not how coin values work. But don't click away yet. Because while a normal 2005 no mint mark penny usually isn't worth anything close to $1 million, there are other things hiding on these coins that collectors actually care about. And this is where your penny gets interesting. Think about how many Lincoln cents have passed through your hands since 2005. Millions upon millions of them have been used at stores, dropped into parking lots, forgotten in drawers, thrown into jars, and carried around in pockets. Most are ordinary. But among huge numbers of ordinary coins, unusual errors can sometimes appear. And collectors know that a tiny manufacturing mistake can be much more interesting than the date alone. So the first thing you need to understand is the mint mark. On many U.S. coins, a small letter identifies where the coin was produced. A D indicates Denver, while an S is associated with San Francisco for coins struck there for collectors. But Philadelphia traditionally used no mint mark on Lincoln cents. That means a 2005 penny without a mint mark is not automatically missing something. It may simply be exactly what the mint intended to make. Now here's the pattern interrupt. Take your penny and look at the date. Is it actually 2005? Make sure you aren't looking at a different year where the mint mark situation is different. Then look closely around the area beneath the date. If there's no letter, don't immediately assume you found a major error. Instead, move to the next step. Check the design. The 2005 Lincoln cent features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. On the reverse, the coin continues the Lincoln memorial design used for decades. Now look at the lettering. Look at the word liberty. Look at "I in God we trust." Look at the date. Do the letters appear normal? Are any letters doubled? Are any parts of the design strangely raised? Does the coin show unusual shapes that don't look like ordinary ware? This is where a basic penny can become much more interesting. One of the most important categories collectors watch for is doubling. But there's a huge trap here. Machine doubling and true doubled dies are not the same thing. A coin can appear to have doubled letters because of the minting process, damage, or mechanical movement. That type of doubling may add little or no value. A genuine doubled die is different. It happens earlier in the die-making process and can create noticeable doubling in specific areas of the design. So if you think your 2005 penny has doubling, don't just look at it with your naked eye and declare it rare. Use a good magnifying glass or a loupe. Look carefully. Compare the coin with a normal 2005 cent. And if something looks truly unusual, have it examined by an experienced numismatist or professional grading service before believing a huge valuation. Now let's talk about another factor that can make an ordinary-looking penny much more interesting: condition. This is one of the biggest secrets in coin collecting. Two coins with exactly the same date and mint can have completely different values. Why? Because condition matters. Imagine two 2005 Philadelphia pennies. One has been sitting in someone's pocket for 20 years. It has scratches, dirt, discoloration, and worn surfaces. The other was carefully preserved from the moment it was made. It has sharp details, clean surfaces, strong luster, and almost no visible marks. They may both be 2005 Philadelphia cents, but collectors won't necessarily treat them the same way. The better the condition, the more attention the coin can receive, especially when combined with a genuine variety or error. And this brings us to another important point. Do not clean your coin. This mistake can destroy potential collector value. A lot of people see an old or dirty penny and think, "I'll make it shiny." They grab a cleaning product, a cloth, or even a chemical solution that can leave scratches or alter the original surface. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces. So if you find a potentially valuable coin, leave it alone. Now, you might be wondering about the $1 million claim. Could a 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark really be worth $1 million? For a normal 2005 Philadelphia penny, there is no good reason to assume that. A $1 million valuation would require extraordinary evidence, such as an extremely important rarity, a major minting error, exceptional condition, or some other feature that makes the coin exceptionally desirable to collectors. The absence of a mint mark by itself does not create that kind of value. And this is exactly why you should be careful with viral coin videos and social media posts. A headline might say, "This penny is worth $1 million. But the real question is always, what specific coin? What specific error? What condition? What verified sale? Those questions matter. A claimed value is not the same thing as a confirmed market price. Here's another quick test you can do. Place your 2005 penny under bright light. Tilt it slowly. Watch how the light moves across the surface. You're looking for anything unusual. Strange doubling. Missing design details. An unusual strike. Off-center placement. A major die break. Or another feature that clearly differs from a normal example. And don't forget the edge. Flip the coin over and inspect the rim. Is the coin dramatically off-center? Does part of the design run unusually close to the edge? Does the metal appear distorted? Small differences caused by normal circulation usually aren't exciting. Major minting abnormalities are a different story. Now let's create a little scenario. Imagine you're cleaning out an old drawer. You find a handful of pennies. Most are ordinary. You almost throw them into a jar. But one is dated 2005. There's no mint mark. You remember hearing that no mint mark can mean a rare coin. So you stop. You grab a magnifier. You examine the date. You check the letters. You inspect the rim. And suddenly, you notice something that doesn't look normal. That's the moment where a 1-cent coin becomes worth investigating. Not necessarily $1 million, but potentially worth much more than face value if the feature is genuine and desirable. That's the difference between collecting based on rumors and collecting based on evidence. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake. People often stop after seeing the missing mint mark. They think, no mint mark equals rare. That's the wrong conclusion. For a 2005 Lincoln cent, no mint mark can simply indicate Philadelphia production. The real treasure hunt starts after that. You need to examine the entire coin. Date, letters, portrait, reverse, rim, strike, surface, condition, and any possible error or variety. That's how experienced collectors approach a coin. Now comes the value reveal. If you have a normal circulated 2005 Philadelphia Lincoln cent with no mint mark, don't expect $1 million. In most cases, it is simply worth around face value, unless its condition or a specific collectible feature gives it additional value. Even uncirculated examples may bring more attention than circulated coins, but that still doesn't automatically make them incredibly valuable. The big money stories require something exceptional. And that's actually good news, because it means you don't need to believe every sensational claim. You need to know what to look for. If your 2005 penny has a confirmed major mint error, an unusual recognized variety, or extraordinary certified condition, then its value could be substantially different from a normal cent. But the exact value depends on the specific feature and the marketplace. So before you start celebrating over $1 million headline, verify the coin. Get clear photographs. Compare it with known examples. Ask a reputable coin dealer or experienced numismatist. And if the coin appears genuinely exceptional, professional authentication and grading can provide much stronger evidence than an internet post. Now I want you to do something. Go check your change jar. Look through your old penny rolls. Check those forgotten coins sitting in drawers. And if you find a 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't throw it away just because it looks ordinary. But don't assume it's $1 million coin either. Inspect it. Compare it. And look for the feature that makes it different. Because that's the real lesson of the 2005 Lincoln penny. The date alone doesn't make the coin valuable. The missing mint mark alone doesn't make it valuable. The story behind the coin, the rarity of the feature, the condition, and the collector demand are what matter. And sometimes the most exciting discovery isn't finding $1 million penny. It's finding a coin that nobody else noticed. So, check your 2005 pennies carefully. Have you ever found a Lincoln cent with an unusual error or strange doubling? Tell me what you found in the comments. And if you enjoy hunting for hidden value in ordinary American coins, subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, unusual mint errors, and valuable pennies hiding in plain sight. Because the next coin you check could be the one everyone else overlooked. Imagine finding a 2006 Lincoln penny in your pocket and discovering that one tiny detail could make it worth far more than 1 cent. But before you start celebrating, there's a catch, and it's the most important part of this entire story. The 2006 Lincoln penny looks ordinary at first. Lincoln is on the front, the famous Lincoln Memorial is on the back, and that small d tells us it was struck at the Denver Mint. Billions of Lincoln cents were produced that year, so most 2006 pennies are not rare at all. But collectors know something most people don't. When a modern coin has the right combination of condition, variety, or genuine mint error, an ordinary-looking penny can suddenly become much more interesting. And today, we're going to examine exactly what you should look for on a 2006 penny before you spend it. First, let's clear up one huge misunderstanding. If you have a normal 2006 Lincoln cent, it is not automatically worth $1 million. In fact, the standard coin was struck in enormous numbers. PCGS lists the 2006 regular strike Lincoln cent with a mintage of about 3.944 billion coins. It is a copper-plated zinc cent weighing 2.50 grams. So why are people talking about enormous values? Because the real story with valuable coins is rarely the date alone. It's what happened to a particular coin during production. Think about it this way. A factory can produce millions of identical products, but if one item accidentally comes out with a major manufacturing mistake, that one item can become much more desirable to collectors. The same basic idea applies to coins. And that's where your 2006 D penny gets interesting. Take a close look at the front. You should see Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above him is the word Liberty. In front of his portrait is the date 2006. And underneath the date, near the edge of the coin, you'll find that tiny D mint mark. That D matters because it identifies Denver. Now here's your first pattern interrupt. Don't just look at the D. Look at the entire coin. Collectors examine the date, lettering, portrait, rim, surfaces, and overall strike. They're looking for abnormalities that can separate a normal coin from a genuine mint-made error or scarce variety. And there's another detail you should know. The 2006 D Lincoln cent belongs to the Memorial Reverse era. Flip the coin over and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial surrounded by the denomination 1 cent and the inscription United States of America. It may look completely ordinary, but ordinary is exactly what makes a real error so exciting. Imagine a coin traveling through the production process at the U.S. Mint. Blanks are prepared, dies strike the design, coins are inspected, counted, transported, and eventually released into circulation. Most coins go through that process without anything unusual happening. But sometimes, something goes wrong. A die can become damaged. A die can strike a coin more than once. A blank can be the wrong size or composition. A coin can be struck off-center. A die can contain unusual doubling. Or, in extremely rare situations, dies intended for different denominations can become involved in a spectacular error. And that last category is where the truly unbelievable auction prices come from. But here's the important distinction. A famous $1 million type Lincoln cent error is not the same thing as a normal 2006 D penny with a D mint mark. For example, Heritage Auctions reported a spectacular 1999 Lincoln cent struck with a Roosevelt dime reverse that sold for $138,000. That kind of price came from an extraordinary, authenticated mint error, not simply because the coin was a Lincoln cent or because it had a particular mint mark. That's the lesson you need to remember. Huge coin values usually come from something genuinely unusual. Now let's bring the focus back to your 2006 D penny. The first thing I would check is the condition. And this is where most people make a mistake. They find an old-looking penny, see the date, and immediately search for a giant value. But collectors don't value every coin equally. A circulated 2006 D penny with scratches, stains, discoloration, and heavy wear is generally a common coin. A sharply struck, bright, nearly flawless example is a completely different story. PCGS records an auction result of $2,640 for a 2006 Lincoln cent graded MS68 RD, although that particular auction record is for the Philadelphia issue rather than the D mint coin. And for the 2006 D specifically, PCGS records a much higher-end example graded MS68 RD that sold for $888.30 in an eBay sale in 2018. That's a huge difference from 1 cent. But it is still nowhere close to $1 million. And that's why you should never believe a viral coin value claim without checking the actual coin. Here's another thing to watch. Look carefully at the lettering. Are there signs of doubling? Not scratches. Not shadows. Not damage from another coin. Actual doubled design elements can sometimes indicate a collectible variety or error. This is one of the biggest traps for beginners because machine damage can make letters and numbers look doubled. A genuine double die is created during the die-making process, while post-mint damage happens after the coin leaves the mint. Those are two completely different things. So if your 2006 D appears to have doubling, don't grab a piece of sandpaper, don't clean the coin, and definitely don't try to improve it. Leave it exactly as you found it. Cleaning can destroy collector value. Now flip the coin over again. Look at the Lincoln Memorial. Check the columns. Check the lettering. Check the rim. And look for anything that appears dramatically different from a normal 2006 D cent. A tiny scratch is not automatically an error. A small dent is not automatically an error. A strange color is not automatically an error. A coin that looks different because it was damaged in circulation is usually not the kind of rarity collectors are chasing. The goal is to identify something that could have happened during the minting process. And here comes another curiosity loop. What if your coin is not just unusually clean? What if it has a genuine mint error? That changes the conversation completely. Error coins can bring serious premiums because collectors want unusual pieces with documented minting mistakes. But the word error gets abused online. Someone sees a bent rim and calls it a rare error. Someone sees a scratch through the date and calls it doubling. Someone finds a dark penny and claims it was struck in a rare metal. That's why authentication matters. Before you assume your 2006D is worth thousands or millions, compare it carefully with known examples and consider having a significant-looking error examined by a reputable coin expert or professional grading service. Now let's talk about the million-dollar claim. Could a normal 2006D penny sitting in your pocket be worth $1 million simply because it has a D mint mark? No. There is no credible evidence that an ordinary 2006D Lincoln cent is automatically worth $1 million. And honestly, that makes the real story more interesting. Because instead of searching for a magical date that guarantees a fortune, you're learning how serious collectors actually find valuable coins. They search for condition. They search for varieties. They search for authentic mint errors. They study auction records. And they verify what they find. That is how you avoid getting fooled by exaggerated internet prices. PCGS lists the auction record for a regular strike 2006D Lincoln cent at $130 for an MS66RB example, while its broader auction data shows that exceptional 2006D pieces can bring substantially more depending on type and grade. So if you have a regular circulated 2006D penny, don't expect $1 million payday. But if you have an unusually high-grade example, a recognized variety, or a dramatic and authentic mint error, that is when the coin deserves serious attention. And here's the most important part. Do not clean it. I'll say that again. Do not clean your potentially valuable penny. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Scrubbing, polishing, chemicals, or abrasive materials can permanently damage the coin and reduce its desirability. Instead, hold the coin by its edges and examine it under good lighting. Use a magnifying glass if necessary. Take clear photographs of both sides. Record the exact date and mint mark. Then compare the coin with reliable references. And if something looks truly unusual, get a professional opinion before assuming the value. Now imagine this. You're going through a jar of old change. You pick up a penny. You see the D. You almost throw it back into the jar. But then you notice something strange around the lettering. You turn it over. The strike looks unusual. The surfaces are incredibly clean. Suddenly, that 1-cent coin becomes worth investigating. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's damage. Maybe it's simply a high-grade example. Or maybe you've found something that deserves professional examination. That moment, the moment between probably nothing and wait a second, is exactly why coin collecting is so addictive. And that is why you should never judge a coin only by its face value. So, what should you do if you have a 2006D Lincoln penny right now? Start with the basics. Check the date. Check the D. Check the condition. Check for real doubling. Check for unusual striking errors. Check both sides. And most importantly, compare what you see with authenticated examples instead of relying on random viral claims. The final value depends on what your specific coin actually is, its condition, and whether any unusual feature is genuine and collectible. So before you spend that 2006D penny, take another look. Because while the ordinary version is common, the right combination of rarity, condition, and a legitimate mint error can completely change the story. And remember, the goal isn't to believe that every penny is secretly worth $1 million. The goal is to know enough about coins that you can recognize the one that might actually be special. So check your change, check your coin jars, and check those old collections sitting in drawers. And if you find a 2006D penny with something unusual, don't clean it and don't spend it until you know what you have. Have you ever found a 2006D Lincoln penny with a strange error, unusual doubling, or incredible condition? Tell me what you found in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden details that can turn ordinary-looking coins into valuable collectibles, subscribe for more rare coin discoveries. Because the next penny you check could be the one you almost spent without a second thought. Stop before you spend that 2017D Lincoln penny. One tiny detail could turn an ordinary 1-cent coin into a collector's prize. And if you don't know what to look for, you could pass it away for exactly 1 cent. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a handful of change, and seeing a 2017 Lincoln penny with a small D under the date. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Millions of pennies like it were made. But here's where the mystery begins. Collectors don't always care about the coin itself. They care about what went wrong during production. Today, we're taking a close look at the 2017 D Lincoln cent and the unusual features that could make one example much more interesting than another. And stay with me because near the end, I'll explain what kind of mistake could create serious collector demand, and why the claim that a normal 2017 D penny is automatically worth $1 million is misleading. The first thing you need to know is simple. The D mint mark means this penny was struck at the Denver Mint. That tiny letter is important because coins from different U.S. mint facilities can have different production numbers, varieties, and errors. Now look at the date. 2017. Then look directly underneath it. Do you see a D? If you do, you have a 2017 D Lincoln cent. But don't get excited just yet. A normal 2017 D penny is not $1 million coin. In fact, most examples found in circulation are worth around their face value, assuming they have no unusual characteristics. So why are people talking about enormous values? Because rare coin stories often begin with a normal-looking coin and end with one extraordinary example. And that difference is everything. Think about it this way. If 1 million identical-looking pennies exist, finding one of them usually isn't difficult. But if something unusual happened to one coin during the minting process, that individual coin could become much more interesting to collectors. This is where errors and varieties enter the story. During the production of a Lincoln cent, enormous machines are moving metal blanks, dies, and finished coins at extremely high speeds. The process is highly controlled, but no manufacturing system is absolutely perfect. Sometimes a die can become damaged. Sometimes a blank can be struck incorrectly. Sometimes a coin can be struck more than once. Sometimes metal can move in an unusual way during the strike. And sometimes a die variety creates details that are different from what collectors normally expect. Those mistakes can create what collectors call mint errors. And here's the important part. Not every strange-looking penny is a valuable error. That's one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. A damaged coin is not automatically a rare coin. A scratched coin is not automatically an error. A penny with unusual discoloration is not automatically worth thousands. And a coin that looks different because it was exposed to chemicals, heat, moisture, or machines after leaving the mint may have little or no premium value. So if you have a 2017 D penny, your mission is not simply to find something that looks weird. Your mission is to determine whether the unusual feature could have happened at the mint. Let's start with the most obvious areas. Look at Lincoln's portrait. Check his face. Check the hair. Check the ear. Check the jawline. Then look at the lettering around the coin. You're looking for something that appears raised, doubled, distorted, missing, or unusually positioned. But be careful. One of the most common traps in coin collecting is machine doubling. Machine doubling can make letters or numbers appear slightly doubled or flattened. To an inexperienced collector, it can look like a major double die. But genuine double die varieties are created during the die-making process and can show distinctive characteristics. Machine doubling is a different phenomenon and usually doesn't carry the same value. So don't grab a penny, see a second outline, and immediately assume you found a fortune. Take a closer look. Use good lighting. Use a magnifying glass if necessary. And compare the coin with a normal 2017 D cent. That comparison can be incredibly useful. Now flip the coin over. This is where things get even more interesting. The reverse of the Lincoln cent features the Union shield, the denomination, the motto, and the familiar United States lettering. Look closely around the shield. Check the lettering. Check the edges. Look for anything that appears dramatically different from a normal example. Again, the key word is dramatic. A tiny scratch running across the shield probably happened after the coin left the mint. But if part of the design appears completely missing, severely doubled, unusually distorted, or struck in a way that clearly looks like a production error, that deserves further investigation. And there's another area many people completely ignore. The edge. Hold the penny sideways. Look carefully around the entire edge. Is it normal, Is there unusual metal spreading? Is the coin noticeably thinner or thicker? Does the edge appear damaged? Could the unusual shape have been created during minting? Edge errors can sometimes be fascinating because they can reveal exactly what happened during the striking process. But there's a major warning here. Damage from coin counting machines, vending machines, coin wrappers, or other equipment can also create strange edges. That's why professional authentication matters when the potential value becomes significant. Now let's talk about the $1,000,000 claim. You may have seen videos, posts, or headlines suggesting that a 2017 D Lincoln penny can be worth $1 million. That sounds incredible. But a normal 2017 D penny is not a $1,000,000 coin. There is no reason to assume that every 2017 D penny has extraordinary value. A coin would need something truly exceptional to even enter the conversation about extremely high prices. And even then, the final value would depend on rarity, condition, authenticity, demand, and documented sales. This is an important lesson for every coin hunter. A price someone writes online is not necessarily the price someone will actually pay. The real market is determined by buyers. And the strongest evidence comes from actual transactions, auction records, and professional evaluations. So what should you do if your 2017 D penny really does look unusual? First, don't clean it. This is extremely important. Never scrub a potentially valuable coin with soap, polish, chemicals, or abrasive materials. You might think you're making the penny look better. You could actually destroy the surface and reduce its collector value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges. Keep it in a safe holder. Take clear photographs. And compare it with known examples of genuine mint errors. If the coin appears genuinely unusual, consider having it examined by a reputable professional grading or authentication service. That step can separate a real discovery from an ordinary damaged penny. Now imagine two 2017 D pennies sitting side by side. They look almost identical. One is worth 1 cent. The other has a legitimate mint error that collectors recognize and want. That tiny difference is the entire game. It's not about finding an old coin. It's about finding the unusual coin. And that's why modern coins can still be exciting. You don't need a coin from the 1800s to discover something interesting. Sometimes the coin sitting in your change is only a few years old. Now here's another mistake people make. They see a coin with a high grade and assume it must be worth a fortune. Condition absolutely matters. A coin with sharp details, strong luster, minimal marks, and excellent preservation can be worth more than a heavily worn example. But condition alone doesn't magically turn an ordinary 2017 D cent into a $1,000,000 coin. Rarity and demand still matter. A perfectly preserved common coin can still be common. Meanwhile, a genuine rare error can attract serious attention even when its condition isn't perfect. So when you search your change, think like a detective. Don't just ask, "Is this penny old?" Ask, "Is anything about this penny different from the normal version?" That question can completely change the way you look at pocket change. And here comes the part one really want you to remember. If someone tells you that every 2017 D Lincoln penny is worth $1 million, don't believe it. If someone tells you that a random scratch proves your penny is rare, don't believe it. If someone tells you that discoloration automatically means an error, don't believe it. Look for evidence. Look for a legitimate minting anomaly. Look for documented examples. And when the potential value is high, get professional confirmation. Because the difference between a 1-cent penny and a valuable collectible can be extremely small, but it has to be real. So, how much is your 2017 D Lincoln penny worth? If it's a normal circulated example with no recognized error or unusual variety, it may be worth little more than 1 cent. If it has a legitimate collectible variety or mint error, the value can be higher, sometimes substantially higher depending on the exact error and condition. But the $1 million figure should not be treated as the normal value of a 2017 D penny. The real treasure is finding something genuinely rare. And that's what makes this hobby so addictive. You can search a jar of coins that everyone else ignores. You can check the change sitting in your car. You can look through an old coin collection. And every time you find something unusual, there's that little moment of suspense. Is it damage? Is it normal? Or did the mint actually make a mistake? That question is what keeps collectors searching. So grab your 2017 D pennies and take another look. Check the date. Check the D. Check Lincoln's portrait. Check the lettering. Flip it over and inspect the shield. Then examine the edge. And whatever you do, don't clean a potentially valuable coin. If you think you've found something unusual, take clear pictures and compare it with trusted references before assuming you've discovered a fortune. Now I want to hear from you. Do you have a 2017 D Lincoln penny in your collection or pocket change? Have you ever found a real mint error? Or have you discovered a penny that looked strange but turned out to be ordinary damage? Leave your experience in the comments, because one collector's discovery could help someone else recognize a rare coin. And remember, the next valuable coin may not be hiding in a museum. Could be sitting in your pocket right now. So before you spend that penny, look twice. Because sometimes the smallest detail is the one that matters most. Subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, hidden varieties, unusual mint errors, and valuable US coins you might still find in everyday change. Your next 1-cent discovery could be waiting in the very next handful of coins.